Alright, so another video. I'm just feeling a little bit compelled to share a little bit more of my story, I guess. Um, so I basically got to a point a while back, maybe like a year and a half ago, where I just decided that I didn't want to accept what I was basically being led to believe I had to accept. That I had to accept this diminished life, a reduced version of life, and not only that, a reduced version that was filled with complete agony. And at that time, I had made a video a while back, and it was basically a declaration video. All I basically said was that I was done laying down to this, and I was done just being nothing but a victim to this, and I was going to stand up to it. And what I meant by standing up to it, I meant that on a personal level. Because at the time, I was still having like voice to skull, still having the voices, in the head, and these voices were very, very, degrading and constantly criticizing me. And so, so they're just heavily critiquing, everything about me, my actions, my inactions, and everything else. So I kind of decided that, I'm going to improve myself and my behavior to a point to where at least what they were saying at that time, they wouldn't be able to say anymore. At least so at the very minimum, they're going to have to change the words they were saying to me, the things that they were saying to me. And that was at least the minimum that was going to happen if I at least, tried to change what I was doing and how I was approaching life. And that's when I kind of pieced things together, because I realized once I started trying to improve myself, that my targeting actually got a lot better. That with that effort, there was a sense of relief. The low points, the worst of it was less. The lows were not as low, not as long, and the highs were a little bit higher and a little bit longer. And not only that, I had a sense of hope. Real hope for the first time. I mean, when it was going good, it really seemed like it could go really good for a long time. Of course, when it would go bad, I would get discouraged, and it would be kind of like resetting. But over time, I still was making progress forward and forward and forward, and it was getting better and better and better. Something else I had done around that same period of time, and this actually ended up being pretty monumental. It actually ended up being maybe more of the turning point than just making a declaration. I actually, for the first time, maybe in my life, but definitely the first time during my targeting, I wrote a list of goals. I made a 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month goal list, and this actually ended up being a big deal. And in the goals, some of them were just kind of pen and paper, like I wanted to get back to work. I wanted this, that, just things I wanted to reobtain that I'd lost, and then some kind of little less important goals. But then I had some kind of personal growth goals in there, and it actually turned out those personal growth goals were actually out of all the stuff I was going through and all the different things I was always trying to figure out. It actually turned out that the personal growth thing was actually the difference maker in my experience. That was what actually led to me really turning this around for myself. And and who would have thought? Because I mean, you think about being targeted, and you think about what we're experiencing. The last thing you would think is that just trying to move forward as a person could actually have the greatest benefit for things that the things that you can actually do yourself. And I can actually now look back, and take inventory and realize that all I do is keep on striving to improve as a person. Becoming a better person. Truly becoming a better person. Just more honest, more reliable, more responsible. Friendlier, optimistic. Willing to lend a helping hand type of guy. And that has actually been the the basis of my improved scenario. And it's weird. This, something actually happened. My targeting took on a different type of life once I started doing this, because throughout this process of the last year and a half, I was constantly making goals and constantly re-evaluating myself, trying to, figure out who I am and why I am. And after just doing a lot of soul searching, I really figured out what was truly important to me and what truly made me happy. And once I figured that out, my targeting started to change in the sense that if I made a goal and I decided that I wanted to do this because this was going to make me happier, this was going to bring the things that I wanted in life, my targeting started holding me like obligated to achieve these things, to strive towards them. And that sounds kind of bizarre, but that's actually what happens, is that for all the twisted, disgusting, sick shit that goes on with this, for all the bad that it is, for all the evil that it is, I insist on extracting something that is going to push me forward and propel me forward, and something that's going to make me be glad to be alive. I would always prefer not to be a target, obviously hands down, without a fucking doubt. But since that is not in the cards for me, especially at the moment, I insist on finding a way to make my life seem great. Even though there's a lot of hell in it, I still like to find a way to make my life seem like it's really worth living. And I think I have. When it's bad, you probably wouldn't hear me say that so much, but it's much more, it's good much more often than it is bad. And that's the honest truth. And so, I can't help but think that, this personal growth thing is actually applicable to probably most targets, even if not all. I really would suggest people just set some goals. Set some goals of where you want to be. Do some self-evaluation. Try to find a way to be truly honest with yourself and everybody else. And try to really dissect yourself. Figure out what makes you happy, what makes you unhappy, and why. Why is almost as more important than what makes you happy and what doesn't. If you got to figure out why it does and why it doesn't, what's really important to you, friends, family, job, whatever it is, you got to really figure it out and really not just loosely define it, like truly define it, truly define what it is that makes you happy. I mean, an exercise I kind of did, and it kind of put things in perspective, is I thought if I was on my deathbed, if my life, if all of a sudden I just found out I had stage 4, cancer or something, and I was on my deathbed, and I had to list my favorite things in life, what would they be? And as when I listed those things, it kind of put perspective of what truly is important to me in my life. And that kind of helped guide me a little bit on where I should be headed in my life, because sometimes we get caught up on superficial shit and ignore the important things. And something that's truly important is ourselves. We are truly important in our lives. I mean, we are the center point. We're the centerpiece. We are our lives. And so we, just because we're going through this, we can't give up on our lives. We can't give up on our dreams and our hopes. I mean, that is absolutely just asinine to buy into this idea that we are helpless until somebody else blows the whistle, exposes this, and saves us. I'm not going to sit back and I'm not going to sit by and wait for that. Fuck no, I'm not going to wait for that. Because really, I have an attitude about this. Because a year and a half ago, when I decided that I wasn't going to stand up to this anymore, or I wasn't going to, sit down to or lay down to this, and I was going to stand up to this, I was at a point where I thought that I was basically up against the idea that I had to settle for this diminished life. And I said, fuck no. I'm not going to settle for this. I'm not going to settle at my age, or it doesn't matter what age. I'm not going to accept this as my reality. And that, that mantra, that frame, that just attitude about life, I've just carried over and over with me because, it no longer became getting back what I used to have. It became, I have dreams and I have things I want to do in my life, and I'm not going to settle for just getting my life back. Fuck no. I'm going to keep striving. I want things in life, and I'm going to go after them. And I'm not going to let, this hold me back, because it'd be understandable, that I gave into this, that I just couldn't fight it enough. It'd be understandable, right? Judge and jury would rule in our favors if we just didn't have the fight in us. But that doesn't take away, but it's still our lives. It's still our lives. So just because, it's excusable doesn't mean I'm going to use it as an excuse. I'm going to keep moving forward, and I think everybody else should too. I think everybody should, just decide, hell no, I'm not settling for this. It's not even in question. It's not even debatable. And I really got to believe, because I know this is what it was for me, was personal growth. And in all facets in life. Everything from diet to organizing, being more like cleanliness around the house, and personally, things as small as like hygiene and shaving every day, to going to bed at a reasonable time and waking up at the same time, to eating right, to working hard, being punctual. Everything, the whole spectrum. This is what I keep on working on. This is what I focus on, because it's a lot better to focus on that than to focus on just the fucking hell that I have to go through when it comes. And it's always there. It comes, but it goes. There's a lot of good time in there too, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Even today, when it gets bad, when it's really, in the moment, I might be cursing my existence, but pretty quickly out of it, I pull myself together, and I insist that I'm not going to let this be terrible. That I'm not going to just give in to any idea that this can't have anything good in my life, because of this. So, I really do suggest people, write down, make a set of goals, things you want to reobtain in your life, things you want to obtain in the future, personal growth things, and I say write them down, because something happens. It's like something magic happens when we write stuff down. We can say these things in our heads, but until you actually take the time to write it down, it doesn't really materialize. It's kind of like, someone could tell you their name 100 times, you may never remember it. But if someone could tell you their name once and you write it down, you'll probably remember it, really well, if not forever. So I really suggest set personal goals, and this is your life. The human spirit is strong. Humans are very resilient. We're highly adaptable. We do have it in us to we can all make the best out of a terrible scenario. A lot of people, throughout the history of time, many people have walked this earth that have suffered greatly. And we're just part of that group. It doesn't mean we have to, just fade away and disintegrate. There's people who have suffered dearly atrocities, who found a way to find some, make some good out of their life and find, beauty in life, So that's kind of what I'm choosing to do. I think you should too. All right, that's it.